Hello everyone. Today we are starting a new fic. It is actually one of my favorite fics on AO3. Um, it is called A New Age, Erase and Repeat It Again, written by UkiDrakii on AO3. I'm not sure if I pronounced the author's name right. I really hope I did. If I'm not, I'm terribly sorry. Anyways, it is a One Piece fanfiction. No archive warnings are used by the creator, but I know that there's tip canon typical violence in it. It is a time travel fix-it AU with Akainu as the main character. So it is such an interesting concept, and I hope you will all enjoy it as much as I did. Please go give a lot of love to the original fic. It's absolutely amazing. Anyway, let's get right into it. This is summary. The One Piece has been discovered. Straw Hat Luffy is the new pirate king and revealed to the world the truth about the world government in the Void Century. Akainu can't follow a government capable of committing such atrocities, but I'm won't allow him to turn his back on them. Throne and Impel Down, followed suit by every devil fruit user I'm can get their hands on. He's not willing to let his life end in prison. When someone unknown sends him back in time, before Ohara's buster call, Akainu seizes the opportunity to change things for the better, or at least his version of better. This will be chapter 1, the beginning. Notes that there are graphic depictions of injuries in this chapter. Akainu was leaning over the railing of the warship, his eyes looking unseeingly at the ocean in front of him. Soft footsteps alerted him of someone's arrival, and his haki confirmed Kizaru's presence behind him. The admiral stopped next to him and leaned his back against the railing. "Regrets?" he asked, voice pitched so as not to carry. Akainu turned his head slightly to the side and looked at him from the corner of his eyes. "I'll never regret going after pirates," he answered gruffly. Still, you can admit that the discovery of the One Piece changed things, even for us." Akainu didn't answer for a minute, waiting his words. "I still believe in absolute justice," he declared finally, "but that only concerns the Marines. What the government did during the Void Century isn't right. And yet we're following every order." "Not for long," he whispered, and despite his words having been barely louder than a murmur, they still carried his conviction. Kizaru's eyes flickered behind his glasses to meet his, but didn't react any more visibly, well aware that some of the Marines around them watched their every move. "I don't know why they called us back to Marijois, but once we've gone back and annihilated the last pirates, the revolutionaries will make their move. The world government will ask us to protect them, but I don't plan to follow their orders," he explained. One would think that your absolute justice would have no problem with their actions," observed Kizaru. "You do tend to disregard civilian casualties in your quest to end piracy." "I might be ready to sacrifice lives to protect others, but not to this extent. The annihilation of more than half the world population only to hide what 20 countries that founded the government were originally fighting for in the Great War. I won't follow people like that." Akainu glanced over again at him. "Then again, they might have asked us to Marijois because they know we will go against them, and they plan to force us to defend them." Akainu relaxed slightly at the "we." Kizaru had always been in his corner, even when it didn't benefit him to do so, and it was reassuring to know he would follow him in this endeavor as well. The Gorosei must have expected Straw Hat to reach Laughdale, given his moniker and the fact that he's a D, but they still chose me as Fleet Admiral, knowing that the truth would get revealed. As you said, I follow absolute justice, and I never gave them any reason to doubt my loyalty. He had always followed their orders, even when others would have balked. Nobody should suspect him of turning his back on the Gorosei, not after everything he had done in the course of his long career. If you say so, drawled Kizaru. Whatever happens next, whether the current government or the next one tries to stop us, I won't let them. He might have sold his soul to the Marines, but he still valued his freedom, and he would never let himself be killed, or worse, imprisoned. They hadn't expected a fight. Even if they had, they were confident in their own strength. Two admirals, Logias, masters of the two kind of haki that could be learned and resistant to the third kind. Not even Dragon could win against them, not unless he used the full might of his army. None of that had been of any use against Im. They had learned of their existence at the same time as the rest of the world, the true figure behind the government, more powerful than the Gorosei or the Tenryubito, the descendants of the line that was responsible for the Great War and the fall of their world into the state it was in. Neither of them had the time to react. As soon as Akainu met their piercing eyes, he felt a searing pain in his brain, the likes of which he had never felt before. He fell to his knees, a scream of pain, unable to leave his locked jaw, just like his eyes were unable to look away from Im's eyes. He distantly heard Kizaru calling out an attack next to him, but it was followed by screams of pain from his fellow admiral. His world had narrowed to the red irises circling black pupils, the edges of his vision slowly blackening until he could only see the red circle enclosed in darkness. He felt the snap of sea-stone cuffs on his wrist, but his body had locked up because of the pain, and he couldn't even think about moving. He could still feel Kizaru at his side, the Admiral's presence exalting as much pain as he was in the few seconds before he lost consciousness. The first thing he heard was the clang of a metal door slamming shut. The air surrounding him was cold, the wall on his back hard. There were faint cries coming from far away, the sound of chains clinging against each other coming from his right made him turn his head to the side and open his eyes, trying to take further stock of the situation. Or at least try to open his eyes. His vision didn't change, still submerged in darkness. Sakazuki. A voice choked out, the pain evident in it. You're awake. Borsellino. He groaned, voice rough. His body was forced into an unnatural position, his back straight against the wall, arms chained, spread out on either side. While he could feel chains against his right leg, the other was sending him too many pain signals to know whether it was chained or not. Where? I'm afraid we've been sent to Impel Down, answered Borsellino, his usual drawl nowhere to be found. I woke up a few hours ago, and it seems like they're arresting every devil fruit user they can put their hands on. Do you remember what happened? As soon as you saw you dropped down. I barely had the time to start an attack before I could feel pain spreading from my arm to the rest of my body, paralyzing me. Some Cypher Pole agents came to arrest us. I lost consciousness after that. Arms? Akainu groaned as the tremor in his left leg grew. I met Im's eyes, and immediately after I got this. Headache doesn't do it justice. My head still feels wrong. Uh-huh, I can see that. Do you see anything? Akainu froze at that. The question was innocuous enough. Borsellino could have asked it if he hadn't been able to see anything as well. but he couldn't help but feel that it wasn't the case. It's all black. What happened to me? Your pupil is extended, as if we're in the dark. It gives you a weird look, Borsellino explained matter-of-factly. He kept silent for a few seconds, giving Akainu time to digest his suspicions getting confirmed, before admitting, with an odd note in his voice, I lost my arms when they first attacked me, I think. The rest of me is fine, totally unarmed. You must have woken up and struggled, or they really have something against you, but you're missing half your leg, informed him bluntly Kizaru. Akainu inhaled deeply. I'll make them pay, he swore. Even if Dragon takes control of the government, he won't let us out, and we're the ones that made sure that no one would be able to break out of Impel Down ever again. I'll find a way. You said that they were jailing every devil fruit user? At least everyone's in the Marines. I saw Smoker and Fujitora, which isn't really a surprise given their stance on justice. But as soon as Ryokugyu got brought in totally disfigured, I didn't doubt my theory much. He's in the cell in front of us, and I'm not sure he will ever wake up. The arrivals over the next few days of a lot of devil fruit users, all wounded in some way that would hinder their ability to fight using their powers, gave them a clearer picture of what was happening outside. It was the arrival of ex-Drake, more than a few weeks after their defeat and subsequent imprisonment, that informed them of Imp's plan. They want to keep us all here, he struggled to explain, part of his jaw having been melted along with his right ear and eye, to prevent the devil fruits from being put back into circulation. They started what they call a cleanse. It's worse than everything I ever saw, worse than even Kaido's most genocidal idea. How did you get caught? Asked Hina from a neighboring cell. Both her arms had been broken and kept at an angle that annihilated every chance they had to ever heal correctly, effectively preventing her from using the majority of her arsenal if she ever got free. Trafalgar is still alive and fighting, as well as some of the Straw Hats. They're trying to find every fruit user that could help them protect people. They created a refuge in Charlotte Brule's mirror world, but most people don't have a mirror big enough to get through. I was helping Bluno, the Cypherpole agent, the one with the door fruit, move around citizens when Im reached the island. There were hundreds of civilians, packed in Bluno's temporary space between doors, and we had no idea what would happen to them if Bluno died. You tried to fight him, huh? Asked Kizaru. Fuck no! Drake let out a bark of laughter, before his wounded face reminded him that moving his jaw too much too quickly was a bad idea. A low whine of pain escaped from his throat as he tried to control his breathing, enough to go back to ignoring the pain. Tears were running down the left side of his face, as he was too hurt to think about holding them back. Not that anyone cared here, they were all in pain and trying to learn to deal with it. I acted as a distraction, he explained a few minutes later. Lasted about 30 seconds. Not bad given that no admiral lasted that long, though there are rumors that Ryokugyu got a hidden. That would explain his state, answered the commander from the cell next to Akainu and Kizaru's. He had a paramecia that was a weaker form of the Gura Gura no Mi that allowed him to create vibrations. Or he could before he lost one hand and half of his other arm. He's badly hurt then. I wasn't conscious when I was brought in, asked Drake. He's totally disfigured, answered Kizaru quietly. He had liked the other admiral, who wasn't preaching his kind of justice every minute like Akainu or an Aokiji, and then Fujitora had been every time they saw each other. The man had been funny, willing to stand up for himself while still following orders, and probably the easiest admiral to have a light-hearted conversation with. It's a good thing he's used to going without food, because even if he wakes up, I don't think he'll ever be able to eat again. It looked like part of his face had been blasted apart, burns bordering the injured part. The bastard must have thought it fitting given his devil fruit, spat Hina. Any news from Dragon? Asked Akainu. Nothing, answered Drake. He must have been planning to move before Im revealed himself, because Sabo has been working with backup. He's burning alive every marine or agent that works for Im that he can find, and is doing a good job, even though it won't be enough in the long run. However, nobody has seen Straw Hat since his last appearance, which was not long before you two disappeared, he said with a tilt of his head toward Akainu and Kizaru. His crew is still moving around, but none of them has said anything about whether he's alive or not. I think he must have been wounded, because he wouldn't let his crew fight alone if he could prevent it. And they all remember Marineford here. Straw Hat Luffy certainly wouldn't let anything short of being dead stop him from protecting the people he saw as his. They had created a sort of watch. Most of the prisoners in the cells around were Marines, and they implicitly trusted each other, no matter their divergences of opinions before. The only way they could know the time of the day was by the meal brought to them, and it wasn't that regular. I might not want them dead, but he certainly didn't care about keeping them in good health. Still, when they thought it was night, they all tried to fall asleep, except for a designed watcher to preserve energy and heal as much as possible. It was Kizaru's turn this night. It had never been Akainu's, since he had lost his sight and his observation Aki was spotty at best, his body too weakened by the still open wounds on his leg, the sea stone around his body, and whatever Iam had done to him, make him lose his sight. The Fleet Admiral, however, couldn't fall asleep. His observation haki might not work right this moment, but he still had instincts. Decades in the Marines, rising through the rank only through his hard work, he had learned to listen to what his body was telling him, even if he consciously couldn't detect anything wrong. Still, the voice took him by surprise. There he is. Are you really sure you want to choose him? He knew every voice here, and it wasn't anyone from the surrounding cells. Nobody new had been brought in since Drake, and he wouldn't have heard it if a guard had come down. What worried him was Kizaru's lack of reaction. Heard that? He asked. No, I didn't hear anything. What is it? Asked Kizaru. He's changed in the discovery of the One Piece. He can lead the Marines on the right path. The second new voice was male, while the first seemed to be female. He felt like he had heard the man before, but couldn't place him. People talking. Close, he growled. I can't sense anyone, and I didn't hear anything, answered Kizaru. Akainu's haki didn't detect anything either, but he knew better than to trust it in this condition. How can you not hear? Or he could use this to destroy the world further, argued the first voice, seemingly not caring that Akainu could hear them. He's still the one I'm choosing, said firmly the second one. Very well. He couldn't hear anything moving, but suddenly he knew that there was someone in front of him. He jerked in his chains, trying to get away from whoever that was. Anybody that was powerful enough to escape Kizaru's attention and was infiltrating their cell wasn't good news. A hand grabbed his head and he blinked. And there we go. So this is it for chapter 1 of A New Age. Um, there's a note here from the author that im is gender neutral, so uh, gender neutral terms will be used for them. Anyways, I really hope you like this fic. As I've said, it is one of my absolute favorites. Um, it was actually the first fic I recommended in my AO3 bookmarks. Anyways, I hope you enjoy it, and I will see you in the next chapter.